170 million people.
Which is still, that figure is still
South Africa is a third of our population and has 10 times more power. Pakistan, Egypt are all way ahead of us. Brazil has 25 times, even though the population is only slightly more than us. We need to, if that does not change, if power supply does not change, for example, there are some things that are not going to happen. When you think of how much of the economy is employed in jobs, for example, one of the biggest sectors of the economy, employment sectors, is the small scale businesses, the informal economy. So we're talking about barbers, vulcanizers, all of those people who depend on power, hairdressers, tailors, all of that stuff. Think of how much more money they are spending that will go into. So just think of the fact that I could use this money to employ 5 people or 4 people, but I have to use it to buy a generator, buy diesel, buy petrol. So I think that there are some conversations I think that we cannot have, especially with jobs. Let me just go to agriculture as well, for example. It's actually the biggest employer of labor at the moment. Most people are smallholder farmers, single individual plots and all that. 40% of the farm produce in Nigeria is lost because we cannot preserve it. We cannot keep it. There's no power supply to store stuff. We've become net importers of everything, from palm oil to fish to wheat to
I understand the Ministry of Agriculture at the federal level is actually buying up whatever produce that farmers come up with.
Well, now I think policies are changing and all that, but I think it's just important to know that these things, for example, I think that electricity, for example, is key to any major discussions about job creation.
Talking about agriculture, which is where I was going to go to next, you beat me to it. It's said that Nigeria, they're working to transform agriculture in Nigeria into a much more productive and job-creating sector. Do you see any signs of this ambition here?
Well, actually, there are signs. Looking at the agricultural transformation agenda that was actually re-energized when Goodluck Jonathan came on board, with the appointment of Olusegun additional as the Minister of Agriculture. He has been doing a lot of things in the agricultural sector, although, because of the deficits in that sector, we're not seeing the impacts yet. So it's a long process. It's something that requires a whole lot of investment, a lot of proactive, engagement before we begin to see the benefits. But I can tell you a whole lot of things have been going on in the agricultural sector.
How, for instance, would you get a graduate to leave the city and go and work in a farm in Kwara State, for instance?
Okay, okay. You can only do that if you give him the opportunity to realize that there's actually opportunity for him to grow in this sector. If government shows total commitment, the kind of commitment government is showing to the oil sector today, if government begins to show that commitment to the agricultural sector, massive investments, people can access bank facilities, to even start some small scale agriculture in their environment.
Thankfully, you are an investment banker. I'm a fresh graduate. Now, I am thinking of going to work in this farm because I can't find a job in the city. Not because I want to be a farmer, because I can't get a job in the city. I now will consider that. Now, are you going to loan me any money? I don't have anything, mind you. Are you going to give me money? Aha! Therein lies the problem.
Well, that's where the problem lies, in real terms.
You do agree?
Well, I do agree. That's where the problem lies in real terms. But, like I said, there are a lot of soft credits today that the CBN gives to banks. You understand? To loan to farmers. Now, some of those facilities actually go to those who have existing farms, who can actually show a proposal to say, okay, I have this farm, it's ongoing, but I just need some facilities to take it to where I want to take it. So it's different from a man that doesn't even have anything in the first place and is coming to access such facilities.
Who may not get anything,
exactly,
because he doesn't have anything.
Exactly.
So how are we going to get this agricultural thing going when there's no facility which people can access easily, who are just leaving school and are actually prepared to go into this sector, but because they don't have anything, they can't really go into it, even though they have the intention?
I won't claim to be an expert in agriculture or policy relating to agriculture, but to the extent we have a daunting task ahead of us, to the extent certain facts are incontrovertible, like agriculture still holds the biggest promise to solve unemployment in Nigeria. We must focus our resources in fixing that, and there are ways we could do that. The inability of Christians to outrightly say, I will give facility if I were a banker to a fresh graduate, lies in the fact that we have a problem with guaranteeing risk in Nigeria. There is nothing that stops that gentleman from walking away, and this gentleman is struggling to recover his money. We need to identify what are the key inhibitors to being able to advance facilities to young enterprising people that want to take to agriculture. And what government then needs to do is to say, how do we bridge, how do we stand in to make sure that the sort of fears that the lending institutions have, I can absorb it. I can't say this is one particular way, but I leave that to the policymakers. But if we recognize that the problem of not being able to lend to support agriculture lies in the perceived risk of the money vanishing away and never being recovered, then efforts must be spared to be able to protect the exposure that the banks carry.
I'm sorry, we have to close now.
Okay.
So I've got to ask this question round.
Right.
The Economic Forum closes today in Davos. What are the lessons which Nigeria should take from all the various discussions that have held in Davos? Let me begin with you, sir.
I think so. One of the key points at Davos was the inequality. We're living in an increasingly unequal world. Where larger amounts of wealth are going into the hands of smaller numbers of people, and I guess it's something, as I said, before, that should be up for national debate. And we have the World Economic Forum in Abuja, first time in Nigeria in May. And also it focuses on jobs, on inclusiveness and all that. How do we reduce the gap between the wealthiest and the poorest? How do we just make sure that more people get access to the Commonwealth? I think that, and I keep saying that these things should not just be discussions for so-called activists or government, but it should be discussions that we're having at all levels of our national life, and openly having and asking these questions and talking about them.
Okay.
Okay. Again, one of the key takeaways from the forum is you talked about, you see. How do governments actually sustain the growth that the global economy has recorded? In recent time, talking about 2013, what the governments need to do to sustain those growths? That is what we, as a country, should start thinking about that too. That what do we actually do as a country to ensure that we have growth that goes down the line to affect the lives of so many people? If you look at the WEF that was hosted by South Africa, for example, Tanzania and Ethiopia, the benefit was massive. So if we had the benefit of attending this and we have the opportunity of hosting such too, we should be thinking at the end of this, it's not just about hosting the event. Now, how do we go back to the drawing table? How do we begin to implement the key takeaways of the forum to ensure that they affect the life of every Nigerian?
Mr. Fanaday?
One of the key lessons coming out of that is the mobility of investable funds all over the world, and we must do our best to make sure that we attract those. The one that we're holding in Nigeria in May is a great opportunity to showcase what we've got, but we will only be able to close out on those investable funds if the right atmosphere of security, peace, a strong legal system is in place, contracts are enforceable, and we continue to create an atmosphere that makes us the preferred destination relative to other places that could attract those funds.
And make sure you have some power before then, so that they don't go away believing that they have to invest heavily in generators and diesel.
Right.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We have been chatting with Mr. Tolu Ogunlesi, who's a writer, Mr. Butefalade, COO, Owando Energy Resources, as well as Mr. Christian Orajekwe, who is an investment banker. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to share your insights with us this morning.
Thank you.
Sunrise will be back in just a moment. Please don't go